Why I love Spearhead from Space. Hello there. The other day I watched Spearhead from Space again. I enjoyed it so much that I thought, you know what? I'm going to make a video all about this one story. And rather than a somewhat dry story by story, I thought I'd do a different approach. The same one that I adopted with State of Decay almost a year ago to the day, actually. I want to talk about this story, and I want to talk about how many times I've seen it, what's great about it, and why it is one of my top 20 favorite stories of all time. Now, Spearhead from Space is, of course, the very first story of Season 7, the very first story of Jon Pertwee's Third Doctor. It was broadcast in 1970. It was produced by Derek Sherwin. It was written, of course, by the great Robert Holmes. And it introduced not just the Third Doctor, but it also introduced colour to the series for the first time, as well as shorter seasons, with the 60s seasons being somewhere from late 30 to mid 40 in terms of episodes, whereas for the rest of the 70s and up until the last 4 seasons of the 80s, the general season length was somewhere between 22 to 26 episodes. And this was the first time. This was 25 episodes. Spearhead from Space is the shortest story of Season 7, just 4 episodes, a kind of traditional 4-part story. And of course it's also the first story in which the Doctor is sans TARDIS. The TARDIS is there, but it's inoperable, and he's stuck on Earth and ends up having to work for a unit, headed of course by Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Now, I first saw Spearhead from Space a very, very, very long time ago on my 13th birthday. A very, very long time ago, back when the universe was less than half its present size. Now, I'd only recently become a Doctor Who fan, probably just over a year. And I'd only seen like 3 stories. I'd seen Revenge of the Cybermen, and I'd had A Day of the Daleks and Death to the Daleks for Christmas a few months earlier, before my birthday. So this was only the 3rd Jon Pertwee story that I ever actually saw. And the other birthday present that I got that year was The Robots of Death. I'm not going to talk about that here, maybe in a separate video sometime. But those were 2 pretty fabulous birthday presents. I mean, those 2 stories are both still in my top 20. So I saw this a very long time ago. It blew me away then. I absolutely loved it. And I mean, decades later, and I still adore Spearhead from Space. This story also, along with Robots of Death, ironically, holds the record for the most amount of times that I've had this story on some form of physical media. Of course, I had the VHS for my birthday, as I said. I later on bought the original DVD release. I later on bought the remastered special edition DVD release. And of course, I've since bought the Blu-ray. And of course, I have absolutely no doubt that it will eventually it will beat Robots of Death, because Robots of Death hasn't had an individual Blu-ray release. It's just on the Season 14 set, whereas Spearhead has had original Blu-ray, and eventually it's going to be on the Season 7 box set Blu-ray, and I'm going to buy it again then. So they've certainly got their money's worth out of me with this story. Now, one of the more notable things about Spearhead from Space, of course, is how great it looks, because of the fact that it's the only classic Doctor Who story that was completely shot on film. Now, there were reasons for that, production issues with video stuff. I'm not sure what was going on there, whether it was strikes or something like that. But it wasn't supposed to be shot on film, not completely. It was supposed to be a mixture, like Doctor Who normally was back then. But for some reason, it ended up being shot completely on film, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, it always looked fantastic and slick. And the Blu-ray release is just gobsmacking. I mean, the first time I watched the Blu-ray release, about 2.5 years ago, it was almost distracting. I almost didn't enjoy the story as much as I normally do, and as much as I did this week, because it just looks so extraordinary. You're spending first time I saw it, I spent most of the time going, holy crap, this looks amazing. It really does look like, a remastered 70s movie on Blu-ray rather than, low budget grotty old Doctor Who. It looks amazing. Now, the slickness of the production is certainly not the only great thing about Spearhead from Space, however. You can't go past the cast and the characters. It's the Third Doctor's debut, of course, and Jon Pertwee is just instantly right and instantly there as the Third Doctor. This was the very first story that I ever saw the Brigadier in, and Nicholas Courtney is just effortlessly cool in this story. It's only his third story, of course, the previous two being Web of Fear and The Invasion with the Second Doctor. And this is his first story as a newly promoted regular. And he's just absolutely fantastic. It's also the introduction of Liz Shaw, of course, who will be the Doctor's assistant for the whole of Season 7. And Caroline John is great in this too. But what's amazing, she really is the queen of sarcasm in this story. I also think it might actually be Liz's best story, because she's just oozing sarcasm and disbelief throughout the whole. She just gives the Brig so much crap. It's really, really funny. He actually starts to get visibly irritated by her eventually. At first he's kind of, water off a duck's back, but her sarcasm level is so through the roof. You can actually see him starting to get visibly sick of her. Now, another good character, I really like Captain Monroe in this story. Now, I'm not sure who the actor was. Let me just check that. John Breslin was his name, apparently. And I think Captain Monroe is great. I really like this guy. He comes across as being almost as cool as the Brig in this. He's really, really good. I actually think it's something of a shame that we never saw him again. I mean, I don't want to ruffle any feathers here, but I'm not really that big on, Mike Yates. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate him or anything, but he never really made much of an impression on me. I think it's really a shame that we didn't get this guy as a regular, because I think he's awesome. Also awesome, of course, is the principal villain, Channing, played by the great Hugh Burden. I mean, this is such a wonderful performance of just icy, lurking menace. He just absolutely oozes this kind of inhuman presence, and it's a great little turn. The story itself is a simple alien invasion story, as well as having to introduce the new Doctor and indeed the new whole unit setup. And, we have Bob Holmes on scripting duties, and he makes it look effortless. This is essentially the show pretty much reinventing itself for a whole new decade. And he makes it look utterly effortless and like it's the most natural thing to happen to the show that you could imagine. It's very difficult to see that happening any point since the show kind of changing to such a degree, and the audience just kind of accepting it so much because it's so well done. You cannot see the joins. And of course it's got some typically excellent Bob Holmes dialogue. Like I said, all the banter between the Brig and Liz is just hilarious. I have no idea how many times I have seen Spearhead from Space. It's a lot, let's put it like that. Over the last 3 decades, it's a lot. It's never really been out of rotation, because like I said, I've always had it. From that point on, I either had the VHS or the DVD or the remastered DVD or now the Blu-ray. So it's always been. It's not one of those stories that I didn't discover till late in the day, like say Invasion of the Dinosaurs. This was one of the absolute earliest of the Doctor Who stories that I saw as a new young fan, and it's still, as you can see in my recent videos, music video countdowns, it's still in my top 20. Everything about this story just oozes class. I love the music as well. I mean, Dudley Simpson, some of his stuff gets a bit samey later on, but his score for Spearhead is cracking stuff, oozing menace and atmosphere. I love Spearhead from space. I pretty much love everything about it. I could maybe live without those tendrils at the end, but it is the epitome of classic Doctor Who at its peak. I give Spearhead from Space nothing less than a full-on A+.